Okay, so I have the pieces cut for the side of the top pantry, but I need to find a way to join these cross pieces with the side pieces, and it needs to be relatively stable. Well, very stable. So what I'm going to do is I want to do mortise and tenon joints. So these cross pieces are going to have tenons on the ends, and I'll have mortises for them to go into, and which is basically a tongue and a slot. These side pieces, the bottom and the top, I can cut on the table saw, but the center I have to use a special tool that I have left over from chair making days, which is this. This is my mortising drill press. So basically I can cut square holes with a drill press. It's got a bit in the middle that augers it out, and the sides are like chisels, and it'll slice right down through. So let me get that set up, and I'll show you how that works. Now let's show you how this works. So you end up with a nice mortise. It can be done by hand. I can clean this up a little bit. I run it through again, but you can do this with just a drill, some chisels to square it off, and so I just happen to have this because at one point I was doing a lot of building a lot of children's chairs, so I needed something I could do a little bit faster than just by hand. So we'll get on to, I'll get the rest of these done, then I'll show you how to do the tenons that go in here and how we're going to do the ends. All right. Okay, what I'm going to do is cut dados in the end of the boards, so that, or the uprights, so that the tenon that I'm about to cut will go into it. Well, I'll do that in a minute. This type, well, what I did here is I put a nice big fence to give me a good support. I put an upright at a right angle to it to keep everything nice and straight. And what we have here is called a wobble blade. And let's see, all right, with the wobble blade, the wobble blade, you should be able to see, is it's two blades. They come together, close together. There's a dial that I can set for width, and as they go through, they cut away the wood. So they basically cut a groove, and then it gets wider and wider as it goes along. Some people don't like these. There's another kind of dado called a stack dado. There's a true wobble blade, which is just one blade that goes back and forth. I've used those. I've got one sitting up in my toolbox. I like this one. It does a little bit cleaner cut. The stack dados are really nice, a little easier to set up, but with some experience, using one of these is not hard at all. So these are a lot less expensive. You can do all this. I learned by doing it by hand, and then I started buying the more modern things like the blade here, and to speed up the process when I was doing some production. So I didn't want to spend a lot of money for the stack dado. This one does a nice job. Like I said, little experience setting this thing up, just took me a couple of seconds or a minute. So, all right, I cut the mortises, and then I'm going to set this up to using the same blade to do the tenons, which is basically the tongue on the end that goes into the slots. So, all right, so let me get that set up, and we'll cut those. This is the dial I was talking about. There's one on either side. This one goes from 1/4 inch to 13/16. Just grab it at the narrow spot and dial whichever way you want, and split the blades will come farther apart or closer together. So for the tenons, I'm going to cut it the widest I can to save a little time. All right. Okay, when cutting the tenons, I put another piece here so that this limits where it's going to be cutting on the inside. You don't want to ever use the fence with the cross, whatever this thing's called, because it's possible to get it jammed. You get a kickback. This way, you've always got some clearance when it's cutting. So let me cut one. Okay, so what that does, we have the mortise, and basically an open kind of mortise. We've got the tenon, which is the tongue, and these will go in like that, in here, and in here. Get a nice tight fit. We'll tap that in. And I'll show you how we're going to put this together, but that's basically how you do the mortise and tenon. So I like the nice tight fits. Okay, I'll get these cut and then I'll show you the next step.